Good afternoon. I'm Bucks County District Attorney Matt Weintraub. As a community, this is one of our worst nightmares come to life. And the irony isn't lost on me that this is National Child Abuse Prevention Month. But we're here to announce the arrest of now defendant James Carey, but formerly full-duty Warminster cop from 1989 through 2006 while he was on active duty. He is now charged with sexually abusing 4 adolescent males from the period of 1989 to 2000 while he was an active duty police officer. We still have grave concerns that this defendant may have abused additional victims from 2000 to 2006. And frankly, we don't even want to limit it to that time period. And that is one of the substantive reasons that I'm before you today. I want to talk a little bit about this defendant's history. When he was a police officer in Warminster Township, he was assigned to the elementary, middle, and high schools in the Centennial School District in Warminster. He also, as a police officer, ran the Fire Explorer program in the Warminster Fire Department. And he did so along with his deceased co-molester, Chuck Goodenough, who recently committed suicide. We identified Goodenough's victims who were linked to him through the Boy Scouts and their Camp Occoneekin. But both Carey and Goodenough were heavily involved in the Boy Scouts at the same time. So Officer Carey ran the Fire Explorer program for young people. He was the D.A.R.E officer and was also heavily involved in Scouts. He would take kids on overnight camping trips through the Warminster Park and Rec Department. And although we have records of those trips having occurred, the records identifying the kids who attended the trips and parental consent for those trips either never existed or has been lost. The defendant remained working as a Warminster cop in his full capacity until 2006. And by way of history, he was fired. He won his job back through an arbitration and then reached a settlement with Warminster Township in 2009 and retired as a corporal with full credentials. After leaving Warminster Township Police Department, he worked at a campground in Cape May, New Jersey named the Driftwood, was fired from there, worked at the Coast Guard, not actively enlisted, was fired from there, and then as a bus driver for the Cape May County Schools last year until he resigned. I don't know what his current employment status is. I'm going to go way back in history for a moment here because this is important for you to know and to be fully transparent. Bucks County detectives initially investigated this defendant 20 years ago in 2001 after Warminster Township Police Department received a report that he, meaning Carey, had inappropriately had contact with a 17-year-old boy. Warminster Police also appropriately reported that to the Bucks County District Attorney's Office. Investigation ensued and determinations were made. This was obviously before I became the district attorney, but I have no reason to suspect anything other than a professional investigation was conducted and that the only conclusion that could have been reached at that time was reached, unfortunately. Due to the age of consent, at that time being 16 years old, and due to not having full information about what had happened, the district attorney at that time was not able to file criminal charges against this defendant. However, the district attorney in 2001, one of my predecessors who is now a common pleas judge here, Diane Gibbons, did write a letter to the Warminster Township Police Department saying that although Carey was unable to be charged criminally, that his behavior and conduct caused her grave concerns about the safety of children in his community for as long as he was employed as a police officer by Warminster Township. Those words turned out to be prophetic. Now I urge you, if you're watching this, if you or somebody you know were molested by this man, please come forward. Contact us at bucksda.org or call us at 215-348-6504, even if it's anonymously. We will help you get justice. We can help you heal. I want to talk a little bit about this defendant's suspected MO, his modus operandi, his method of operation. He would get close to his victims, all young adolescent males, under the false pretense of his official duty as a police officer and a trusted leader in his community. I'm going to go over very briefly the illustrations on how this happened with our 4 victims for whom we've charged this defendant for molesting. Victim number 1. His mother believed the defendant was a police officer who had only the best intentions in guiding her troubled son into making the right decisions. She trusted him as well. The defendant began having sexual intercourse with victim number 2 when he, the victim, was approximately 13 years old. He would pick this victim up while in full uniform in his patrol car. This victim was a child that he knew because he was this child's D.A.R.E officer at Locke College and was from the Speedway neighborhood in Warminster. Victim number 3 was first victimized at the rec center, which used to be a teen activity center near Locke College in Warminster. Kids were known to go there after school and on days off to shoot hoops and other activity, and frankly, just to be kids, not to be preyed upon. Victim 3's first abuse occurred under the guise of a pat-down search by the defendant on him at age 13. Victim number 4 was a neighbor of the defendants in the Speedway section of Warminster. The same MO was used and the same surrounding circumstances. This victim had no father present and his mother had issues. And this victim was looking for a father figure, a role model, somebody he could trust. And instead, he got James Carey. I am grateful to all 4 of these victims. They are courageous, and I admire their bravery and their courage in coming forward. The defendant was arraigned this morning. He was arrested on these charges. And I would just like to say, because this may be a question that some of you have, that when setting bail, a magisterial district judge must consider essentially 2 factors: whether the defendant is a flight risk and whether he is a continued danger to the community, as well as the seriousness of the charges. Bail in this case was set at $100,000, 10%, by MDJ Maggie Snow. I understand the defendant has posted bail and is at liberty, even as we speak. His preliminary hearing is April the 22nd and will be held in Warminster at Magisterial District Judge Finello's court. That date, of course, may be subject to change. This case will be prosecuted by First Assistant Jennifer Shorn, ADA Brittany Kern, and the Bucks County detectives, Detective Greg Beidler, Detective Tim Perkins, who conducted this investigation, this most recent investigation. I also have to give special thanks once again, and I never get tired of saying this, to our Bucks County grand jury, who are regular citizens just like you all, for their tireless investigation and charging recommendations in this case, because it is their literally years-long commitment to justice and to protecting our community for which we owe our thanks in this case. A police officer's creed is to protect and serve his community. In a perverse and criminal dereliction of duty, James Carey instead took advantage of his power and the inherent credibility that he had while on the job as a police officer to sexually abuse our community's most vulnerable, our children. He was a veritable wolf in sheep's clothing, preying on those who trusted him, on our children. So I urge you that if you've been victimized by this man, or you know someone else who has, or suspect it, or have some information, please come forward so that we can help you while keeping our community safe. Does anybody have any questions?
Matt, should this man be free right now?
I hate to give you the stock answers because they sound trite and cliched. I know we argued vigorously for bail. We argued those three factors: the seriousness of the offense, the flight risk, the danger to the community. We fulfilled our function, and it's up to a district judge to fulfill theirs.
Yet the judge said he should be locked up. He is a danger to the community, seeming to agree with your prosecutor, and then she sets bail at 10% of $100,000. Does that make any sense to you?
I can't answer for what's in a judge's mind. I wish I could, but I can't. I mean, I appreciate the question. You're putting me on the spot, but that's a question for the judiciary. I wish I could answer it, but I really don't know the answer.
Matt, was there any coordination with authorities down in New Jersey, given that he was fired from multiple jobs in a row? Is there any ongoing investigation down there?
We worked hand in hand with our colleagues down in South Jersey in Cape May County. At the moment, though, what I believe, Vinny, is that we're the only ones that have charged this defendant with his conduct. Whether more charges may be yielded, I couldn't say for sure, but we'd be happy to help them in any way we could.
Is there any indication at this point that he was fired for similar reasons?
I don't know, but it wouldn't be fair of me to say for unindicted conduct.
If I could ask, these allegations are from 10 years ago. Investigations happened, they concluded. What happened now that's bringing this all to light?
We have some very determined prosecutors and investigators and grand jury members. As you know, I pride myself on my office's dogged determination in reviving what I would call old, cold cases. This is a case that where we always suspected there was more to it, and unfortunately, it required additional victims to come forward for us to be able to put the proofs together. But if there's a silver lining, it is that we will never rest until somebody like this is brought to justice and has to answer for his horrific crimes.
So of these four, are any of them new cases that have come forward, or are they all stemming back from a while ago that you just reinvestigated?
The conduct all occurred way back then, but these are new allegations to us.
Matt, following Diane Gibbons' 2001 letter putting Warminster Police on notice, were there other victims between 2001 and the date of time that he left Warminster Township Police?
Not that we know of, but I don't want to foreclose that. In other words, if there is a victim out there that falls outside that timeline that I've even asked for, we don't want to preclude you. Please come forward.
There's no
You're saying that there are victims, that there could be victims, that there's no victims that you know of, but your grand jury report says in 2006, or slightly after 2006, he was investigated by New Jersey State Police for similar conduct at the campground.
Well, that would be a New Jersey case.
But I understand that, but it is in your presentment here that was presented to the grand jury, so perhaps there's something else out there. You can't be 100% sure.
Deanna, I certainly don't want to be coy with you because this is too important, and in a way, it's such a bittersweet day for us. But of course, if there are other victims out there and this empowers them or this empowers some other agency, some agency needs to go first. And it's Bucks County. If this is going to help some other agency go forward and move forward with charges or to rekindle an investigation, that's great.
Matt, we know he's out. Is your office requesting that he surrender his firearm that was recently relicensed, apparently, according to words in court, and the passport if he has one?
I'll say it like this. We certainly anticipated or had hoped for a different bail situation because the defendant is potentially at liberty even as we speak. We will confer and reserve the right to file with the Court of Common Pleas to have his bail amended to include certain conditions or frankly a much higher monetary bail. That's possible.
How do you believe he and Good Enough met up? Was it through Boy Scouts?
Through the Boy Scouts or through the Boy Scouts, yes.
Any other adults?
Oh, and the Fire Explorer program.
Any other adults out there that could be connected to him that you would like to?
I will say that the targets of this investigation were Carey and Good Enough. And I am not welcoming additional speculation at this time. I never want to rule anybody out because I don't want to chill anybody from coming forward, but they were the two main targets of this investigation.
This case has wide-reaching effects here, whether it's for victims of sexual violence to relive what they went through, for those to relive what they went through with him, and then even wider implications here when it comes to trust for police, especially in this environment. You have someone who used his car, his uniform, his position to basically try and take advantage of everyone that he came in contact with, the children, and push that he was untouchable. What do you say now to people when it comes to trusting police?
What I say now is you're looking at the best that we have to offer our community when it comes to law enforcement. This man was a perversion and an aberration and a stain on law enforcement for what he did and for the advantage that he took of these children and of his position. He is in no way representative or reflective of the values of almost 100% of law enforcement who do their job without thanks to protect and serve us each and every day. This is a terrible day for us because that's a natural question of you to ask. But he in no way, he is the exact antithesis of everything that we all represent.
And I do hear you saying that. However, we've covered cases where we know that other people hear things throughout, and that leads to either a bigger investigation, more victims, more information. Again, pointing to your presentment here, it points out how many people were aware of the rumors from the 2001 complaint, to the letter, to the parents that all heard the rumors of kids in the hot tubs, to the misconduct in the police department. And then he gets his job back. So what happened there within the department that people seem to be aware of what was going on? And
it's a terrible crisis of confidence. I can't answer that question. I don't know why the arbitrator decided how he or she decided. That's a question for them. It's a question for Warminster Township. But what I can tell you is that the way that we continue or the way that we will regain the public's trust in law enforcement is one day and one investigation and one prosecution at a time. And that's why we're standing here in front of you, transparently representing the positives and the successes that we've had in bringing this man to justice. They're all fair questions, but all we can do is go step after step, day after day, to continue to do the good work that we've been sworn to do.
if the victim hadn't come forward in May 2020 to bring this back open, would we be standing here today?
Pardon me, Deanna?
The victim that reported to police on May 12, 2020, it's now an adult. Was that was the crux that began this again, that opened this up again, or was there more?
That's what really sparked this, breathed new life into this investigation. He is to be given special credit, but frankly, any victim that can come forward after being so betrayed deserves our recognition. But yes, and that would be who we would consider victim number one that I mentioned earlier. I think this is probably a good stepping off point. We'll make sure that you guys have the slides that are available to you, and we'll make sure that we'll put everything that we've presented today on Crime Watch for your review. Thank you all for coming today. Appreciate it.